When it comes to plant care, I think we've all been there, right? We go out, we buy an absolutely beautiful new plant, we enthusiastically bring it home, and then unfortunately it just doesn't do very well and it withers away and we watch it pass. Plants should be simple, right? You give them water, you give them light, you give them food, and they should grow. Sometimes plants don't do well just because of something that we probably don't know about the plant, or maybe life just gets in the way. So whether you've been caring for indoor plants for a long time or you're just starting out, there are a few common mistakes that we all make when it comes to plants. Maybe giving them a little bit too much love or not enough love at all. Either way, let's go through the top 10 and see how we can look at what's happening and how to avoid them. Hi and welcome to my channel Leafy Lovin'. If we haven't met before, my name is Angie, and if there's one thing about me, I love to grow. Now I love to grow in the plant sense, obviously, I have this channel, but I also love to grow and learn personally. It's a very big thing for me. I'm always trying to learn something no matter what day it is. And I can tell you right now, plants have taken me on a journey. About 8 years ago, I had a complete black thumb. I had absolutely no idea about plants, but through a little bit of Googling and a lot of trial and error, I have now over 200 luscious, beautiful, healthy plants. Maybe it's 195 luscious, beautiful and healthy plants. We don't get everything right. And I absolutely love learning about the tips and tricks behind how to grow healthy plants. And I want to share that with you guys. But I can tell you there's a lot of different mistakes that many people make when it comes to plant care, and there are some very common mistakes when you're first especially starting out, or if you just don't have time and life gets in the way. So today, let's go through the top 10 most common issues that I see, and starting with the very first issue, which is probably the most common on all different plant parents, and that is overwatering. You've probably heard me talking about it before. You've probably heard other plant people talking about it before. Overwatering is not giving your plant a lot of water in one go. It's giving your plant a lot of water more frequently and not letting those roots and that soil dry out. It means your plant is sitting in stodgy water and the roots can't get oxygen, which is very important, which we'll get to next. But overwatering is actually more common than you think. And if you see a plant droopy, it's usually because you just think, oh, it needs more water. But actually that can also be a sign that it's sitting in too much water and the roots are suffocating, which is why it's a little bit tricky, and it's why it's the most common issue that you'll find when it comes to a plant problem. So the tip really to avoid it is just check your soil first. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can pop your finger into the soil and just make sure it's like dry, at least the top half of the pot is dry. For the bigger plants, I would honestly really recommend using a water meter. Water meters are your best friend. I use it all the time because you can get chances where the top of the pot is dry, but the bottom of the pot is still sitting in water, and that's actually really bad because then when you water it, it's a very high chance of overwatering and rotting, so be careful about that. Another way that you can test once you start getting used to your plants is actually lifting up the pot. If your pot is really light when you lift it up, you're guaranteed you know it's time to water. But overwatering is one of the biggest, most common mistakes, so if it happens to you, it happens to all of us, don't beat yourself up, just maybe take some propagations and start again, or dry out that soil as much as possible between now and the next watering. Okay, mistake number 2 is not having drainage holes in your plant pots. So I know that when you bring a plant home, sometimes people repot straight away. I personally don't recommend that. I personally think you should get your plant used to your own environment because it's just come from almost a greenhouse pretty much. So make sure you bring it home and let it acclimate first for at least a couple of weeks. I would not touch it unless it's a really sick plant. You can do what you need to. But when you bring it home, if you want to repot it into a new pot after 2 weeks of waiting and you want to put it into a ceramic pot with no holes, you've got to know what you're doing when it comes to plants and plant soil, because it's very, very easy with no drainage holes for that water to sit at the bottom, and then it leads to the number 1 issue, which I've just spoken about, which is overwatering. So the best thing to do is actually get a plant into a plastic pot or something with drainage holes down the bottom, and then use that plastic pot as an inner pot and have your ceramic pot or the really nice decorative pot on the outside. I do that with all of my plants. Again, you'll see here, so plastic pot, and then you just pop it in, and you can't see it, right? You can hardly see it. I think it's lovely that way. And it's a lot easier to check if your plant is overwatered in that sense. No drainage holes can very easily lead to overwatering, which can very easily lead to root rot. Okay, number 3 is all about lighting. Sometimes when you're inside in your house, if your house is like mine, it can be quite dark, and you would be surprised how little light there is in a shady space inside compared to a shady space outside. It is much brighter for any plant when sitting outside in a shady spot. So insufficient lighting is really the 3rd biggest problem. I've just done a video all about how to choose the right grow light to brighten up that space and make sure that that plant gets the light it needs. So I'll leave a link to that video just here. But you need to make sure that your plant gets enough light for the type of plant it is. And remember, many different plants need many different types of light, but most need at least a medium to bright, indirect, not directly in sun rays, at the outside sun rays, but medium to bright indirect light is the best source of light inside. Make sure you are giving all of your different plants the minimum at least amount of light that they need. So do a little bit of research about your plants. The other thing you might want to do, you might see your plant leaning to one side. It just means it's searching for more light. So just rotate your plants around a little bit if need be. So it might be getting enough light on one side and not on the other. So rotating your plants will help you have a more fuller, luscious plant. Okay, mistake number 4 is actually probably something that a lot of people don't like. I definitely submit to this one as well. And that is not pruning your plants enough. Pruning can actually help the plant grow fuller and thicker and better and healthier. So do make sure you're cutting off the old dead leaves regularly. Maybe instead of a long, thick, leggy stem, you might want to cut it back a bit. But plants actually do very well if you do prune them and cut them back a little bit and let them grow fuller. They will grow 2 plants or 2 stems out of 1 stem that has been cut, which will make your plant look fuller. So do try and get used to cutting up your plant or pruning your plant on a regular basis to help it be more luscious and be more full. Okay, up to number 5. And number 5, an error is a bit similar to the lighting issue, and that is just choosing the wrong plant for the wrong space in your house. Look, there are all different types of plants, and it does help to do a little bit of research. Just Google when you're purchasing it perhaps on the light needs and the space growth requirements of that plant. So that plant might only be like this big when you buy it, but it might grow to 2 meters tall. So are you putting it in a corner space that has enough room for that plant to grow? Does that space have enough light in that space for your plant to thrive? Medium to bright indirect light. So again, just do a little bit of understanding of the light needs, the temperature requirements, and the space in your house, and see if you can match the plant to the space. It does take a little bit of trial and error here and there. It is going to take a little bit of time to understand sometimes, but you do need a little bit of research on the space and the plant and make sure they match accordingly. Okay, I hope you're enjoying this video so far. If you are getting value out of this video, can you just do me a really big favor and just press that like button, just there, just press that like button, get this video out there. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe to this channel to keep up with regular updates of the videos that I release, and share this channel out with anyone you think this may be useful for. Thank you muchly. Mistake number 6 is, I'm gonna bundle it up a little bit. So mistake number 6 is improper care of the root system of a plant. So of course you see all the plant leaves and beautiful stems and everything, the greenery up above the soil, but there's a lot of things happening under the soil as well for a plant. So you've got to be really wary of making sure those roots are healthy. It helps the plant substantiate, it helps the plant grow taller, and you need to make sure that the bottom part of your plant, the soil, the oxygen, the watering, and all of that is in the right condition. So there's 3 parts to this. Number 1 is not using the right soil. The best and simplest mix that will cover most plants is 1/3 of orchid bark, 1/3 of perlite, and 1/3 of general potting mix. Those 3 together will make up a very, very nice, good, decent potting mix solution for most plants around. You'll find from roses to birds of paradise to pothos. Also, make sure that soil mix is chunky, and that will allow oxygen to get to the roots. And your roots need oxygen. They don't want to be sitting in mud. They don't want to be sitting in thick, stagnant mud or water. Again, that'll lead back to the number 1 issue, which is overwatering. So you want to make sure that you're drying out that soil is chunky, and that you're getting oxygen to the roots as well as water to those roots, as well as nutrients, of course. And then speaking of nutrients, the 3rd mistake when it comes to root care is not giving the plant enough nutrients. A lot of people think that the soil mix that you start with is going to last a long time. And technically, it can probably last a few months, 3 or 4 months. But after a while, your plant is not only going to need the sunlight for food, but also it's going to need its vitamin. Think of it like a human. Like, we need extra vitamins sometimes to make us feel happy and healthy. Plants need their vitamins too. So they get their food from the sun, but they need iron and calcium and zinc and all of those different elements from the soil. And if you're creating your own soil, then you need to make sure that you're providing fertilizer to give the plant the nutrients it needs. Don't do it too often. It's every couple of months is fine, but do make sure you're giving it the right amount, follow the instructions, and give it fertilizer, and make sure your roots are getting the nutrients it needs as well. Okay, we're up to number 7. And again, I think a lot of us fall victim to this just because life gets in the way. I know I do. And that is making sure you clean the leaves. The green part on your leaf takes the light in and creates its own food through photosynthesis. So if your plant leaf is dusty or it's got doggy hairs, like I might have a lot here, so I need to make sure that I'm using a cleaner. And I've got microfiber gloves here. I love these things. So if you don't have these, you can use a microfiber cloth or some kind of cloth, but do wipe down your leaves and make sure your leaves are clean. You want your plant leaves to be able to photosynthesize and work their magic 100% of the time as much as possible. And if they've got dust and grime, they're not getting in enough light and they're not working to their full capacity. Go out and do yourself a favor, buy some beautiful microfiber gloves. It's so easy to clean because you're just basically cleaning it with your hands. Yay! I feel like a puppet or a muppet when I do this, like Oscar the Grouch. Don't know why. I love them. Anyway, so make sure your leaves are clean. I'll put them back. And make sure you don't have dirty leaves. Is easy to overlook when life gets in the way. Right, so while you're there cleaning your leaves, we're gonna go on to the next error that I see, and that is not checking for pests on a regular basis. Now, I don't know if I need to explain why that's a problem. I mean, obviously pests can suck the life out of the plant and they just damage the plant. And if you don't notice them and they're there for a long time, it really does damage the plant over time. Sometimes it's hard to see if there's only one or two. I completely get that. So you can't catch them all the time, but do make sure you're cleaning your leaves on a regular basis and you're checking for pests. Now, if you're new here, I have created an ebook. It's 10 pages. It's an absolutely free ebook, and it's all about how to identify what pest you have and how to take care of that pest. I give a few different solutions. It's an absolutely free ebook. Please do grab it. I'll leave the link in the comments below, and hopefully it will help you identify the pests. But that is another common issue that happens many times, and plants don't do so well if there's a pest sucking the life out of that plant, is all I can think of saying. Mistake number 9 when it comes to plants is not adjusting for seasonal changes. Now, I know that we are currently right now here, we're in spring in Australia, in the Southern Hemisphere. In the Northern Hemisphere, you're in autumn and we're heading into winter. And plants do very differently in colder temperatures and warmer temperatures. That kind of makes sense. So if you've got plants that don't do well in the colder months, bring them inside. There are plants that prefer cooler conditions and there are plants that prefer warmer conditions. So please do just make sure that you're providing the right temperature for your plants as much as possible. There is, of course, a large fluctuation of where a plant can survive. Most of my tropical plants that I own can survive anywhere from 10 degrees to about 30 degrees quite nicely. I think that's what, 60 to 85 Fahrenheit, if my maths is correct, I hope so. But there is a temperature range that your plants will do well in, and then outside of that temperature range, they will not be happy. So make sure if the season is changing, you're just looking after your plants. Don't overheat them, don't put them near a drafty hot space because they don't do very well right next to a heater, but obviously just move them a little bit away maybe from a cold window or a cold draft, or bring them inside if you've got them outside. It would definitely help your plants thrive, especially through the colder months if you get them out of the really chilly parts. So adjust for seasonal changes. Okay, number 10 on the list is probably the one that is probably the most overlooked part of plant care, and that is just making sure you've got the right humidity and airflow around the leaves of your plants. Because we all own indoor plants, it's very easy for them to sit in closed rooms, closed environments, and a very stagnant place. But if you think about it, all plants are technically outside plants, and they all have wind and rain and airflow and humidity outside as a natural thing. Have a look at maybe the humidity needs, do a little bit of research and see if you've got the right humidity in your house. You may need to help out the humidity and increase it by adding a humidifier, group those plants together, give it a little pebble tray. There's a few different ways you can do it. So check your humidity and make sure there's airflow in the room. Open a window every now and again, open the doors, and just make sure you've got airflow around your plants, because your plants do thrive a lot better when there's the right humidity and airflow around your plants. So have you made any of these mistakes? Please add comments. I love hearing people's stories. Don't forget to hit that like button and do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so you get all of my new plant videos coming next. And don't forget, learning about plants is definitely a journey. You won't get everything right. Nothing is perfect, but that's okay. Love your imperfections. It can be a lot of fun, and plants give you a lot in return. With these simple tips and trying to avoid these common mistakes, your plants will be beautiful, happy, and healthy, and you'll have a home full of leaves, love, and a lot of laughter. If you want more plant care tips, I really think you should watch this video right here. It's all about how to help your plants grow that little bit faster. So thank you for joining. Go watch that video next, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.